Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fair Housing Insiders, episode 53. I'm your host, Jonathan Saar, and joining me today is Michael Coughlin. Michael, how you doing today, my friend?
Great, Jonathan. Always glad to be here.
Yeah, exciting topic today. Can't wait to dive in and get your comments and thoughts on it in just a minute. Couple of housekeeping items. Please, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our newsletter. A lot of opportunities, a lot of bonus content that comes from our newsletter, including a quarterly contest for those who submit their questions to our YouTube videos. And make sure you follow us on our Instagram channel at Fair Housing Institute. So today we are focused on cheating, fair housing cheating. So you want to take us into that for a minute, Michael? What kind of cheating are we referring to? Like, why are we talking about this?
I know it sounds like a very scandalous topic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We're talking about cheating kind of in two different ways here. One is more common. And when I say cheating, I mean kind of not really going the distance in terms of fair housing training. And that's just the most check the box training that you could possibly have. Like maybe the higher ups just send out like, hey, here's a fair housing video. Can you just guys watch this when you have some time? Or maybe it is, they say like, oh, just, run through this course real quick. It's going to take you 15 minutes and like, there's no test, there's no nothing. Like, it's just like, just watch 15 minutes and that kind of thing. And we'll kind of get into a little bit more, but like, obviously there's just a lot of problems there with people paying attention, absorbing the material, retaining it. Essentially they could have just, spent 15, 30 minutes just doing nothing on their phone, not paying attention. And they're just not really getting an actual education. It's just a waste of time and possibly money if you spend something on it. The other type is quite literally cheating. People, kind of sharing answers on tests. That sounds kind of crazy. You wouldn't think of that in terms of like, occupational training. That sounds like something that you hear about in high school and college, but it does happen, including in fair housing training. So that's the kind of cheating that we're talking about today. That's really is a threat to housing providers and individuals in their own careers.
Yeah. You touched on a couple of methods that are there, and we use question banks in the courses for the Fair Housing Institute, so that helps. I mean, is there anything other things that you've seen? Like, what are some other things that you've witnessed where trainees are looking to game the system? They're trying to cheat their way out of taking that fair housing class or that quiz. Any other common items pop up on your radar?
I mean, the one that actually started the fact that I actually even noticed anything was the most classical sharing of answers cheating. Way back in the day when we kind of started under what was called the Fair Housing Institute Online, we had a little bit more of a simple course, and we had an exam, and it was a pretty thorough exam, but it was the same questions in the same order every time. So eventually, for some larger companies, when employees didn't really want to pay attention, they'd get one person to actually pay attention and take the exam and figure out, the right answers, and then they would just share them. And so the company, everybody was passing the exams with the exact same grades. And like, we found out we had to make some changes early on. And that's why today we have a big bank of questions that change out every time somebody takes it, and all the question orders randomized to make sure that people can't game the system. As ridiculous as that sounds, it doesn't sound like you put in a lot of effort to avoid something that doesn't take that much effort. But probably the other ones I've had is like people taking the training for them. And believe it or not, one of the most common forms of that is managers or higher ups taking the training for their employees, their leasing or, maintenance employees, just because they don't want to take them off of the desk or off site, or, they don't want to interrupt their day in any way. And they're worried that they'll fail. So they do it for them. And they don't realize how much they're hurting themselves and their employee.
Right. Very good. Yeah. And we know this episode is we're coming to a point, community, because this isn't just about reporting what we're seeing, but we're definitely going to be talking about the dangers that are inherent with it, and some things you need to think about. So let's just take it one more level, Michael. Now, we know a lot of property management companies use some sort of a system to manage their learning records, whether it's a learning management system or some other software to keep track of employee certifications. What have you seen in some cases where property management companies, their training department they're doing to kind of game the actual record keeping? Any comments on that?
Yeah, that would probably be, you do occasionally see some, like fake training certificates. That actually does come up occasionally, because people think, oh, if they just have their certificate, then that's all they'll need. And it's like, well, that's ridiculous. Like they're going to commit a fair housing violation. And if you keep committing them, the fact that you have certificates, that doesn't look that great. Right. But I'd say the most common one, and again, this is not the literal form of cheating, but it is very real, is the just under training on purpose in order to check that box. I can't tell you how many people contact me and they ask for recommendations on training, or that they want to know what will work for them, and I'll try to figure out their situation. I'll tell them what'll work for them. Like, that's longer than I want, or I want. They want the shortest possible training available, the least amount of effort available. That kind of thing. Right. It's like, I understand people are busy, and this isn't everybody's most exciting topic, even though it's very exciting for me, just personally. But this isn't anything you would want out of any professional. Would you want to take your car to a mechanic where they had, it's like, he took the least amount of training available in order to get this job? Would you want to go to see a doctor like that? And maybe the threshold is not as high for a leasing agent, management, or maintenance, but you would want to live on a property where people had the proper training. And likewise, you would want to work with other people that had the proper length of training. So, don't shortchange yourself. Don't shortchange your company. Don't shortchange your employees. Put in the time, put in the investment, because honestly, you're just cheating yourself otherwise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's so many fair housing cases that are out there that demonstrate what happens when there's a violation. And inevitably, part of that settlement is always fair housing training.
You're going to do it one way or the other.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Yeah. And to try and, cheat your way through that, there's so many other industry examples that are out there. So yeah, good points, Michael. Very, very good. All right. So let's look at a scenario, because I love these scenarios. They always just kind of really reinforce the point. So let's just take a look at this scenario, and now we'll get a kind of a visual on what could be happening on your property right now. So let's take a look.
So Taylor, I'm not quite understanding what happened here. There is a recording of you telling a lady that there are lots of Jewish people in the community. Do you not understand how wrong that is?
Well, I'm not sure what I did wrong. The lady said she was Jewish and wanted to know if there were other Jewish people who lived here. I was just trying to be nice.
I see that you completed your fair housing training just 2 weeks before this phone call. So what did you learn about protected classes and what to say when asked questions like that?
Protected classes?
Yeah, like race, color, religion. Do you know the rest? There are 7 of them.
Age? Poor people? Like, you can't turn people away just because they don't have a lot of money.
So what'd you think of that scenario, Michael?
I share in Morgan's frustration. It sounds like, it said Taylor completed fair housing training. Obviously I don't, in this scenario, this hypothetical scenario, I don't know what that looks like, but I can tell you that the training probably was not that thorough. I can tell you that there probably was not a robust test at the end of that training to make sure that the person had absorbed the material and actually understood it. Sounds like it was just one of those, they watched a video or something like that. Yep. And who knows if they were paying attention, especially if nobody's there and you're doing it over the computer. So, but at the same time, while I share in Morgan's frustration, it's a little bit Morgan's responsibility, if she's a supervisor, to make sure, I know that sometimes managers don't have a say if they're a larger company as to what training they get, but you should be sending some messages up the pipeline and say, this is not adequate. And I know that can be tough to do. Again, in a big company, you don't want to really make some waves and you don't want to turn heads, but you do need to speak up if you feel like the training is not adequate, your employees aren't absorbing it, they're not using it properly, because in the end, you're just going to create so much more work for yourself. So, don't be afraid to speak up if you need to.
Yeah. Very, very good. I love that. And I think too, it's nice to share with our community that with this episode, it's a very small percentage that are trying to game the system. Overall, I think you would definitely agree, Michael, like people, they see the necessity. It's really important to them. They want to make sure their name is on that certificate, and they are very, very particular about their scores too. And they want to make sure that their scores are recording correctly. So, overall.
Oh yeah. Actually, if you're a person that's watching this video, I'm going to go ahead and bet that you're not trying to game the system. You're going the extra mile, but you may work with people that do. You may work for people that do. So that's who we're really trying to point out here today is to look around your office and make sure that everybody's on top of it. Because again, even if you're not involved, even if you're not the one who made the mistake, it could create a lot of extra work for you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Excellent point. So, okay. Wow. That was a good topic. So now we get into our Fair Housing Fast Five. And Michael, you still hold the record of the only person on this show who's been able to get it in under 1 minute. So we'll see how you do today, and if you do, it's one quintillion Monopoly dollars or
Monopoly dollars. Yeah.
Those are always valuable. Saturday night with the family.
It's a game I loved to hate growing up.
Yeah, exactly, man. You need those extra bonus. They're like, where'd you get all that money from? Speaking of cheating, don't cheat on Monopoly.
Of course not.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to hit the timer and we're going to hit our questions. Let's see if you can get them under 1 minute. So what are the issues with just asking that your employees watch some fair housing videos?
There's no supervision or follow-up to their knowledge. They could not be retaining it. They might not understand it. They may not even be paying attention. They could be on their phone while the video is playing. So it might end up being useless.
Why should companies be so concerned about cheating or ignoring training?
Because it's just going to lead to a fair housing violation. I can't tell you how much you're just wasting time and resources if you're trying to get around actually give people training. Get them trained, avoid the violations. You're going to save so much money and time in the long run.
Yeah. What could the consequences be if employees were cheating on their training?
If you are found to have a lot of, obviously you're going to have a higher instance of fair housing violations if people are cheating on the training because they don't understand it. But going beyond that, if an investigation is done and it finds out that your training is subpar, that people are cheating on it, that is just going to make whatever is going on in the investigation now looks much worse. And I don't have to remind people out there that investigations can cost tens of thousands of dollars and take years and attorney's fees and time. It is exhausting. So don't cheat yourself.
How do I keep my employees from treating, or excuse me, how do I keep my employees from ignoring their training?
I think one of the ways to do it is have a lot of follow-up. Obviously, things in the training like exams can really help, but do role playing. Every now and again. To do some in-person exercises when you have some time, because you're going to notice real quick the people that don't know what they're talking about, and you can actually take those people aside and say, hey, listen, I think you need some follow-up training. You can identify the problem before it becomes a problem. So don't be scared to reach out and kind of test the waters, do those exercises. They're great for team building as well.
Very good. And how can higher ups create a positive training environment at my company?
I think, again, try to like empathize with your employees and let them know that, of course, training is not everybody's favorite activity, but consider it an investment in their career and in your company. Try to really put as much of a positive spin as you can on it, and try to have different kinds of training. Don't have the same check the box, watch this video every 2 years. Use different training methods, use webinars, use live training if you can. We just talked about role-playing exercises. Mix it all up, keep it as dynamic and fresh as you can, and make sure you're getting your training from a great source.
So you didn't win.
Ah.
But excellent answers. Very, very
Yeah.
good. Yeah, that was almost 3 minutes, believe it or not.
3 minutes.
3
Yeah.
minutes. So,
You
but
get me talking about fair housing training, Jonathan, I get all worked up. That's what happens.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, it's tough to keep them, concise. There's rarely a yes or a no answer to any of these questions. But I tell you, good points. And I think even in one of these questions, the way you demonstrate how leadership gets involved, and especially with how learning management systems work these days, there's even opportunities to find out like which questions maybe there's some consistency on certain aspects of fair housing that your team isn't really grasping, and you have the opportunity to provide, like you mentioned, nice follow-up training and reinforcing and so on. So
Absolutely.
excellent episode. Timely, good reminders. Thank you to our community. Thank you for being on our show. We know you appreciate it. We appreciate your support by sharing this, by giving us those thumbs up, connecting with us on our newsletter and on our Instagram account. And remember, submit your questions to this YouTube episode. If you have any, we'll consider it for a future episode as well. So until next time, thank you everyone for tuning into our show. Take care.
Happy training.